Nathan with Blue Oak. I'm going to teach the running bowline. Now, in this setup, I'm using the running bowline as a base tie for a climbing line. So I'm going to be doing a running bowline around this tree, but you could do the running bowline around any object that you can choke up on. The main thing about this knot is it's a choking knot, and it takes the bowline and ties it around its own standing part so that it can then choke up like a lasso. All right, so without talking too much, let's just get right into it. I like to make a bite of rope to throw it around a tree like this. This makes it a lot easier to grab. That way I don't have to like walk around with it. I'm gonna take a slip knot, then take the tail, go around my standing part, which is going back up to the tree, fold it back on itself, and capsize it, and it becomes a running bowline. You can see it right here. There it is. It chokes up. It is now a suitable base tie to climb on. Now, I did that pretty fast, so let's talk about what just happened. Let's undo all that really quick. And this video is going to go into a lot of depth, but I'm going to just kind of knock out the how to tie it portion for those of you who are just trying to figure out how to tie it. I'm tying a snap bowline to make this running bowline. I'm making a slip knot. After I go around my object, I go around my tree. I ignore this side of the rope for a little while. This is my running side, or my standing part specifically. This is my standing part, and this is my working end, okay? So I'm just gonna use my working end right now. I'm gonna make a slip knot with my working end, and I'm gonna leave myself enough tail to do my loop of my bowline. So let's pull out a little more, pull out a lot, make a slip knot. Make a slip knot by making a loop and then passing a bite through that loop. This is really important. Pull your bite from your running end, not from your working end, okay? So I make this loop. I don't pull the bite from the working end like that. It will turn into a French bowline, not a American bowline. So I'm gonna pull the bite from the running end, and then it'll set itself up correctly. Leave this slip knot nice and loose. Next, this is what's gonna form that loop. Right there is gonna be my bowline, okay? But first I need to go around the standing part to make it a running bowline. So here's my standing part again. I'm gonna reach around, pass it around. And now all I need to do is go through that slip loop, and either I can come in from this way and fold back this way, in which case my tail will be on the outside of my loop, or I can come in from this way and the tail will be on the inside of my loop. And I like to set my tail on the inside of my loop because it sets up nicely for the Yosemite finish. But as far as the knot is concerned, it doesn't really make a difference either way. You just want to pull enough tail through that you can back it up in some manner. And then you're gonna grab these two strands side by side and pull until the slip knot capsizes or snaps into place. Sometimes I have to kind of work it a little bit with my hands to milk it over, but there you can see it made a bowline. You gotta break this into steps. The running bowline confuses people after they've learned the bowline because they don't know like what they're tying their loop around. You're so used to tying a bowline around the object, then when it's time to do a running bowline, you forget that the first step is to take the tail of the line, the working end of the line, go completely around your object. So, I'm gonna take my rope, go all the way around my object. Now I'm taking the working end, and I'm gonna make a slip knot in the working end. I'm gonna pull my bite for my slip knot from the running end, okay, not the working end. Then I'm gonna take the working end, go around the standing part of my rope. Then I'm gonna go right on in through that slip loop, hold them right here, hold it right here, and pull until it snaps over. And if I have to, I can milk it over with my hands, but there it is. My tail is on the inside of my loop here. It sets up nicely for that Yosemite finish, like so. I talk about the Yosemite finish in another video, so I'm not going to go into depth over that. But you know, you are supposed to back up a bowline. All right, so that's how you tie a running bowline really quickly with the slip knot method, the snap bowline. You could tie your running bowline the other way, but then you have to go through all those extra steps in your head. You got to make your loop and go around your object, which is, in this case, is the standing part of the rope. Then you go back into the loop, then go around one of those strands and come back up and go in like that. So, okay, so there, that's another way to tie that running bowline. And then back it up. Okay. And why do we back up bowlines? You hear that probably a lot. I'm going to talk about that now for just a second. Let's pull this off the running configuration. Let's just tie a normal bowline. And we can make that bowline the traditional way here. Okay. There's our bowline. I'm going to make my tail a little bit shorter just to make this demonstration even easier. All right, I've dressed and set it. And now I'm just going to load it and unload it. You can see how easily that knot comes undone. See that? Just by loading and unloading. A bowline can really easily work its way loose after it's been dressed and set. It's just not a super secure knot. Even that right there, you know, I mean, eventually can come loose. So that's why they say back it up, and the Yosemite finish is a good way to back up your bowline because it's nice and clean. But you could also just do a half hitch. We're gonna back this up with a Yosemite finish. We're gonna put it back up there. We're gonna do a similar thing where we're pulling, and you can see there's just, it's not, when I go up with this strand, it's not loosening the entire knot like it was before. So that's why you back up bowlines. But what about the running bowline? Well, if you're climbing on it, then you probably should just back it up for safety's sake. But you'll see that the running bowline doesn't come loose the same way when it's loaded and unloaded. And the reason for that, so I'm not backing it up right now. I'm going to load it and unload it, and load it and unload it, and load it and unload it. And you'll notice that this knot is not loosening at all. The reason for that is this knot is a secondary feature of the knot overall. The first feature is right here. It's wrapping around the object and it's choking right here at this point. So this is taking all the load. By the time the load works all the way to here, this is just kind of holding that loop in place. It's not experiencing that same type of dynamic movement of this. So it's not coming undone. Like I said, if you're climbing on a base tie with a running bowline, you probably should just go ahead and throw a half hitch in there because it's too easy to do that and it just makes it double secure. But I just thought I'd explain that as well. Last thing I'm going to say now, I like to practice all my knots in a lot of different configurations because you know, I've been throwing it to the left side of my object. Let's see what happens when I throw it to the right side of my object. Everything is going to feel different now because everything's kind of mirrored. But if you break it down into steps, then you'll be able to perform the knot every time, no matter what the situation is. So even though I'm mirrored and kind of backwards, and I'm going to do it with different hands now, I'm going to break it down into those steps. My first step is to throw it around my object. My second step is to take my working end and make a slip knot, and make that slip knot by pulling my bite from the running side. My next step is to take the tail of my working end downstream of that slip knot and go around the rope's standing part. Then I'm going to go back through that slip. I'm going to fold back on itself and grab those two parallel strands, and then I'm going to pull until it snaps and milk it over if I have to. And so in that case, I did have to milk it over. And voila, we have a running bowline again. Okay, choke it up. There we go. That's how to tie the best, quickest way to tie a running bowline.